and welcome to all our newcomers. Today, just to be sure that everyone is aware, we will be recording the webinar to make sure that we can dispense it, and so that the information we talk about today isn't just exposed to those people that are in the meeting. So, start recording. Okay. So, just to reiterate, I am Christopher McKenzie. I am the Pre-Sales Product Specialist here at Financials for Office 365. And this is our Lunch and Learn webinar sessions. Today we'll be covering financial management. If you have any questions, please feel free to send in a message. And at the end, we will have a Q&A section where you can ask any questions that you'd like about financial management. Please, for the demonstration today, let's try and keep all the questions on topic. If you have any outside questions of financial management, say service, manufacturing, or any follow-up questions from inventory management from last week's webinar, please feel free just to email us and email Alvin. He'll be able to get straight to you. So, as you all know, Financials is a component of the Office 365 suite, and today we're just going to try and illustrate its powerful functionality in the world of accounting. So what is the agenda for today? Today we'll start off with a quick introduction about what we're going to attack. We'll also hop into the chart of accounts, give you a look at that specific dimensional analysis. We'll try and keep it very brief today. That is because dimensional analysis will be going through into more depth in the financial reporting Lunch and Learn webinar. And then we'll have a look at the ease of use of navigation through the chart of accounts and the general ledgers. Moving on from there, we'll try and take that same functionality that we see in the actuals, and we're going to try and apply it to our budgets and forecasting. I'll strive to give you an illustration of the functionality that we have there, as well as the ease of use. After that, we'll move on to an additional module, the cash flow forecasting. Give you that dynamic look of the various ways that we can produce forecasts for your organization or other organizations. And of course then, we're going to move on to another financial management module, the fixed assets. I'll try to illustrate the depreciation that you can apply to your fixed assets, as well as maintenance, registrations, as well as insurance, and even the componentry that you can apply within the fixed asset module within Financials for Office 365. And then to conclude the financial management Lunch and Learn, we'll have a look at the foreign exchange and exchange rate functionality within our currencies within the system. Give you a look at that ease of use, and then it'll be a nice way to conclude the webinar today. Afterwards, we'll have a Q&A section where we try and leave about 15 minutes. This is always subjective, and as we just said before, please try to strive to keep your questions on topic about financial management. If we're unable to answer your questions today, we'll strive to send out an email to you afterwards. And so please leave your information with Alvin if that is the case. Great, so let's begin. As you can see, this is the chart of accounts of Financials for Office 365, but of course, we don't want to death by PowerPoint, so let's hop into the program itself. As you've seen in the other webinars, we still have the same layout as we do within the chart of accounts, as we do with every Office program. The ribbon plus the navigation pane to give us the ease of use of navigation. Now the chart of accounts is made to be as similar to an Excel spreadsheet as possible. Within here we have the universal search function to be able to drill down to any specific aspect. Say, that'll bring us to any one of the numbered accounts that is within that aspect. Even then apply ranges. As you can see here. Now this is just the universal way of navigating by the search function. Removing these features, of course, is just as easy as pressing that X button, but we want to have a more dynamic way to navigate through our chart of accounts. And that is through the function of what we call filtering. So as you can see here, we've got a wide range of columns to choose from. As you may know, within any list page within Financials for Office 365, you can choose what to show and what to hide in regards to the columns that you illustrate within any list page. But you are also able to then filter down to specific aspects within each one of these columns. Say if I wanted to filter down specific to a name, purchase. We now are having a look at every single account that has the word purchase within it. It's just a very easy way to have that specific navigation through the system. Now, of course, with every single list page, what we can do here is take what we have illustrated on the page and send it out to Excel that quickly. It's just one of the ways that we have that dynamic linkage between the other Office 365 programs. Now, on top of this, one of the other aspects that we do have, let's just remove that filter here so we can see the whole chart of accounts again, is that we have the ability to delve into in depth within what you're seeing here within the chart of accounts. So while it is quite generic, the chart of accounts that you're seeing right now, we can go and apply specific contexts on top of what we're seeing. And that's done through what we call dimensions. So what is a dimension? Dimension is data that you can attach to an entry as a kind of marker so that the program can group entries with similar characteristics and easily retrieve these groups for analysis purposes. Each dimension can have an unlimited series of dimension values that are subunits of that dimension. Now, while that is a very straightforward definition, it's always better to go in the program and actually see what Christopher's talking about. Let's go and just do that. Best way to think about it is a dimension is just a context that you're adding to that entry. And this is a way that we try and keep our chart of accounts as simple as possible. I've been in plenty of demonstrations where the person that I'm talking to has had a chart of accounts that went on for thousands upon thousands or tens of thousands of accounts because they had to make it specific to every cost center, every location. This is how we take care of that. A very good example is just the department dimension. This is just applying the context that you would see within any income statement: administration, production, and sales. Now, why we can apply multiple and unlimited dimensions to any one of these contexts that we have here, add a piece of functionality that these dimensions can be consolidated the same way as you have consolidation accounts within your chart of accounts. As you can see here, you can pull together the information just by tagging a dimension value that is a total. So as you can see there, we've got Europe North, the specifics, and then the total. So it could be that you could have areas within America. Apply the states and then apply the cities as dimensions. Just go as in depth or as broad as you'd like. But even though I'm illustrating, I guess, the different types of dimensions you can apply, and there can be any one that you will want to incorporate into your business practices, it's always good to see a form of analysis. So let's go do that. A good way to do this would just be what we call the GL balance by dimension. Let's hit that up in the ribbon here. With any form of analysis you do within the system, by any one of those actions, all you'd have to do is select the action and then just apply the specifics of what you'd like to see. To make it more illustrative, I'll set the dimension as the columns, so you can see the separation that we're talking about here. I've set it to a specific GL account filter range, and let's just set in the period. I'm just setting it to the previous financial year, and let's go show matrix up here in the ribbon and have a look. So what this has done, it has now separated my operating expenses specific to the departments that I want to analyze it by. As you can see here, I've got myself every single entry specific for the last financial year. And I've got the total amounts. But on top of having these figures put in front of me, I can actually select them and then drill down to the general ledger entries that have contributed to this total amount. That is a very powerful piece of functionality that we have within financials, the ability to drill down and see the specifics and then even navigate from here to see the connections and even the attached documentation to these entries. So I'll provide an example now, what we think would be happening. Let's say I'm a financial controller and that I have to find out on a month-by-month basis the operating expenses of my sales department. Instead of separating them and applying all the departments, let's view this now by period. Apply the same date filter that we had earlier. Does not seem to like my filter. Let's just go for everything then. And let's choose the specific dimension we're trying to filter down to, the sales. There we go. And let's show matrix. So I now have, by a month-by-month basis, the actual operating expenses of my organization. I can drill down and see the specific entries that my sales department has been creating expenses for. Now this can be taken to any context of analysis you'd like to take on. It just shows you that powerful slice and dice functionality that the dimensions bring to analysis of your actuals. So, while this does provide a powerful form of reporting, the next important aspect within any chart of accounts or any general ledger would be ease of navigation. How easy is it to find the specifics of what I'm looking for? So let's hop into the ledger entries and see. So right now, this is set specific to the GL account I just chose. Removing this is just as easy as right-clicking and clearing the filter. And there we go. I now have the entire GL in front of me. So if I wanted to filter it down to a specific account, it's just as easy as right-clicking and filtering. But let's say I want to see every amount that was by 110. Just by that quickly, I can now view every single entry that is specific to that amount. You can apply the same periods or the higher and lowest that we've still got within the Excel formulas. Moving the filter is just as easy. And if you want to do universal searches, you still can. Every single entry now that has any correlation to the word purchase has been brought up. So you can navigate through your general ledger entries that quickly. So while we've got this ease of navigation and this powerful functionality to delve down into our actual dimensions and see those contexts, we can apply this to more than just our actuals. As you may see here through the Options Fast tab in Show, we can actually view and apply these dimensional analysis tags to our budgeted entries, and then even view the variances as a percentage or as an amount, and even an index. So let's hop into the GL budgeting and forecasting aspect within Financials for Office 365. Let's start in the 2014 budget. Straight away, I have the budget set to the same area that I was viewing in the chart of accounts. As you can see, it's set to view the actual budgeted entries of my operating expenses. Now, what is the main powerful pieces of functionality within a budgeting and forecasting module? That is the ability to be able to send it out and be able to export and import the information with ease. So as we have it set here that this operating expenses budget is from year 2014, I want to get it out to the main people within my departments that have a better idea of what next year is going to be like. So let's do that by setting this specific to a department. Let's go sales. And then exporting it out to Excel. Now say I might want to make it for a period within that actual financial year. So let's just go for the entire budget itself. And let's make the period length 1 month. I don't have to write in 1 month. All I have to do is write 1M. And that quickly, I have it out to Excel, ready to be dispensed to the people within my organization. Now, as you can see, what we're sending through here is the numbers. It still has that totals that we saw in the actual program. So what we can now do is allow the people within our organization to give us the amounts that they believe are going to be occurring within these periods. And based off their understanding, we can then import them back into the system. And we can choose to replace the entries or even add together. So we can segment it to an even more in-depth analysis. It could be by departments, cost centers, whatever your business practice would like. So it goes to show that ease of use with the importing and exporting of your budgets to Excel. What is the next aspect? And that is forecasting. So ease of use that we have here within our forecasting aspect is that we can copy our budget and combine it with the actuals in any context as you like with that filtering functionality, then produce forecasts set to any period. All I'm doing now is selecting the specifics about what I'd like to copy over to a new budget. Let's go for the budgeted entries as a whole. Now, from here, I can actually even apply an adjustment factor to the entries I'm sending over. So let's say that I believe that there will be an increase of 20%. Round it in any way we'd like, backwards or forwards. Change date formula, so let's just go for adjustment of 1 year. And I can even do date compression. So instead of it going by day basis, we can even compress it on a monthly basis. And it happens that quickly. So that's now been transferred over to a whole new budget. And it is important to note that you have an unlimited number of budgets you can apply to the same period. So while I only have 2 budgets here, I could have up to 9 for my high and low budgeting within the same period. That allows me to even then go in specifically for how I'd like to budget, and then we can combine this with our actuals for forecasting and even high and low comparisons. And of course, powerful feature is then being able to actually compare what you're seeing with the actuals. While doing this, we can even then delve into what the balance and budget percentage difference is. If I've gone over my budget, if we've gone under, we can look at this by even a day-by-day basis if we wish to. So what have we learned from our GL budgets and forecasts? We've been able to see the ease of use of exporting and importing budgets from financials to Excel, as well as the simple use of budgets and the actuals to create forecasts on the go. So what are we going to have a look at now? While we've been able to look at the GL budgeting and forecasting, it's always important to illustrate the cash flow forecasting. Let's hop into that now. Cash flow forecasting module is a standalone module within Financials for Office 365. During my demonstrations, I've seen a regular concern that's come up with the prospects and the partners that we interact with, and that is, what about the manual entry of cash flow accounts into my forecast? Do I have to do it for a monthly basis? Do I have to do it in an annual basis? Because that leads to a lot of manual entry of data. The benefit of Financials for Office 365 is the fact that we can just simply use functions to grab information within specific areas and delve that into the system. Let's go have a look at that. So, Cash flow worksheet allows us to grab whatever we like specific to any context within the system. And that's what we call source types. So let's suggest the worksheet lines for this cash flow forecast. It could be liquid funds, receivables, sales orders, fixed assets, the cash flow manual entries and manual expenses that we wish to incorporate in the system, as well as payables, purchases. It doesn't actually ask you to manually enter the information in. You're just grabbing the information. It's already in the system. Let's include the other side. And it happens that quickly. Of course, what I can do now is I can then adjust these entries based off my interactions with these customers, vendors. It's a way of us applying a more in-depth analysis for our internal use of reporting. So we could say that I have an understanding that this customer, John Hancock, usually pays less than he's supposed to, or that he's been paying later by a week. We can incorporate all of that into the information. Then it's easy as just clicking the register button and then producing your cash flow forecast. As you can see, we've got the accounts all empty here, waiting for this to happen. This is a good illustration of the speed of processing within financials for Office 365. All I have to do is hit register, and these worksheet lines have been processed that quickly. Now, of course, you could apply this specific to any sort of forecast you'd like for your cash flow. You could apply it for your departments, these cost centers, and even the specifics that we saw there, sales orders, receivables, the specifics between your cash receipts and disbursements. You can apply what we've done there to any one of these contexts. As well as this, we can actually then analyze the periodic aspects of our cash flow's availability. Let's hit navigate. Let's have a look at that availability. As you can see here by this table, I'm viewing the period starts and ends, as well as on a monthly basis, the receivables, sales orders, service orders. I'm seeing the balances at each one of these dates. Let's change that. The next change. Not only can I see each one of these aspects, but I can actually see the totals within that period, as well as the raises and the decreases that have been happening to my cash flow. And naturally, we could send this out to Excel. But on top of that, we can drill down and even view these aspects within the table itself, just as you can with a graph. All this information can be sent out to the graphs and Excel for reporting, but we're going to get more into detail about that within financial reporting. As you can see there from the cash flow forecasting, all we had to do was go to the worksheet, select the actions suggest worksheet lines, and select the specifics about the source types we wish to include within that cash flow. This then straight away generated the source types that we wanted, and then it allows us to do manual entries of the amounts. All we had to do then was select register, and that quickly we were able to create a cash flow forecast. So what are the benefits of this module? The ability to easily slice and dice the cash flow for what we wish to include. As you can see there, I chose to go for everything, but you can make it applied to any one of those aspects and even apply the dimensions that we were talking about, those levels of context. Then you can take the cash flow and summarize the forecasted amounts per source type by period. So while we did that for the cash flow, one of the aspects that you wouldn't regularly do it for would be the actual fixed assets. So what else is here within financials for Office 365? Let's have a look at the fixed asset module. All I have to do is hit home button on my navigation pane, slide down fixed assets. For today's demonstration, I always think it's good to make a fixed asset that everyone would like, so I included some cards that we possibly have around the office. Let's select one, and let's have a look at the fixed asset card. So today we're having a look at the Mercedes-Benz 300, and what this is illustrating to us is the fixed asset card. So within the actual contents of the page, we're able to see the general description of this fixed asset. We're able to apply serial number tracking or serial numbers against the fixed asset itself, as well as being able to apply, as you can see here, multiple books for depreciation. So if you want to analyze the depreciation of your fixed asset for legal purposes and then for internal purposes separately, you have that functionality within Financials for Office 365. And of course, you're able to apply any form of depreciation that you'd like to incorporate into the system. On top of that, Financials is able to account for the acquisition of a fixed asset. As you can see here, the depreciation, as well as the disposal of any fixed asset within your organization. Let's select the end figure here, drill down, and have a look at those depreciation values. Now, this can be set to be an automatic function that occurs throughout the system, or you can set that you want to be able to manually enter these depreciation amounts yourself. As you can see, we can see the general entry numbers for each one of these. And of course, as you can see down there, we have the actual postings that we can incorporate within the system. If you'd like to have a fixed asset location applied to this fixed asset, you can. But on top of that, you can go more in depth than just depreciation. Everyone does depreciation. They usually have a statistics page that shows you these amounts that we have here. Sure, not all of them allow you to drill down and actually see the entries that have contributed to the book values. But on top of that, we have a couple of added features here that I think you'll like. First one, as you can see here, is the ability to even incorporate componentry to your main assets. This could be for your equipment, this could be for even accounting for the depreciation of the fixed assets, components within the fixed asset itself. You can go in depth as you'd like. Sometimes I find it's overkill, but some people don't, so who am I to judge? And on top of that, you can even incorporate the insurance you would apply to your fixed assets. All I would do is select this action here within the ribbon, and then I would put down the total insured value amount of this fixed asset. And sure, this does give me that information to kind of compare the insurance amount against my acquisition costs and even then the policy coverage that this insurance provides. But we'll go through the financial reporting aspect next in a couple of weeks' time to show you how we can delve that into your actual role center in your dashboard. On top of that, of course, there's always the aspect for equipment for maintenance, having to account for that actual expenses of services. Now, it could be done outside and you can incorporate a vendor for this maintenance and even account for the next service date, as well as the warranty that you apply to this asset. You could even add componentry as well as notes to account for how that service went and the details of your service agent. That's just a couple of features that we have there within fixed assets. It gives you that high level of functionality, being able to interact with your equipment and even, I guess, the fixed assets within your offices. What's the next thing we can talk about? Foreign exchange management, the currencies. Now, this is important, of course, to people that have, let's say, current interactions with overseas vendors, suppliers, and customers that are outside of their own country. Now, of course, because we are a Microsoft product, we have that functionality. So let's have a look at that. Let's hop out of fixed assets and go back into finance. Now let's hop into currencies. Now, of course, posting of realized and unrealized gains and losses, you can incorporate that within the system, as well as being accounted for one of the currencies you can see here. There's a wide range that you can incorporate. And naturally, you're able to apply as many exchange rates as you'd like to incorporate, giving them different starting dates and then applying them on a periodic basis for updating. Now, this could be that you want to do it in batches of monthly basis. I know that Australia does its tax rates on a monthly basis in that regard. But Financials has brought on this new feature to make the exchange rate updating even quicker. And that's what we call our exchange rate service. So what we can do here is incorporate a bottom line integration. So this is still keeping you within the standard functionality of Financials for Office 365. This isn't a customization. This isn't an integration that requires services. This is one that's readily available to you within the program. What we can do here is we can enable a website to update our exchange rates on a periodic basis. Now, it could be that you want to do this on a day-to-day basis, but you do have the functionality within this aspect. Simply click the update exchange rates within this ribbon here, and straight away it'll update in accordance to that website that you've selected. Just another level of integration that Financials has within other aspects to give you that more powerful functionality. So wow, we've gone through quite a bit today within financial management. Obviously, this is just an overview of each one of these aspects, but if you'd like more in-depth analysis of anything in financial management that we've explored today, please feel free to email and we'll even go in further to it for you. Let's have a summary now. What have we gone through within financial management? We went through the actuals, as you can see here, within the chart of accounts to see the ease of use of functionality that you have with your account management. We have that added level of analysis and reporting functionality through what we call dimensional analysis. Allows you to go more in depth and try and analyze on a more granular level. But on top of that, we went through the aspect of how you can easily navigate through your general ledger entries, whether it be through the search function that we have there within the ribbon to give you that ease of universal search. Now that is readily available within every page of Financials for Office 365. While this is page specific, there has always been a search function within the top ribbon to give you that universal search functionality for pages and reports. Then after having a look at the general ledger ease of navigation, we then had a look at GL budgets and how a dimensional analysis can incorporate both sides of this aspect. You could easily just select one. Let's now copy over the actuals from 2015. See how that looks. As you can see with every single GL account page, every time we enter in a calculation like what you're seeing now, it opens up an actual window into the chart of accounts or the page you're trying to access, the customer list page, the vendor or item list page. And if this isn't enough for you, what you're seeing here doesn't give you the information you need, all you have to do is select the From Full List action and it'll bring up a dialog box or window, say, to give you the entire list. Keep you still where you had highlighted. We'll apply the same adjustment factor, and all we have to do now is OK. That's fine, we don't need to do that. You'll see it work in an actual demonstration. And on top of that, you've been able to see the cash flow forecasting functionality. How it then throws out us to easily grab information from our liquid funds or any aspect within your organization, whether it be cash disbursements, cash receipts, and then delve them out into a forecast, nice and quickly. And you have multiple cash flow forecasts and as many as you like, incorporated into the system, set for specifics, and all you'd have to do to update them, run the cash flow worksheet once more. Ease of use function that we saw earlier. Then on top of that, we've gone through the additional modules that we incorporate within the system. Say the fixed assets, how it can be for just assets within your organization, as well as equipment that you incorporate as a resource. We'll talk about that more within the service management and resource planning lunch and learn. As well as the Forex management within financials for Office 365, currency management. And then, of course, how we have exchange rate services to incorporate that within the system. Quickly, what are the other aspects within financial management that might be beneficial to you? Say, it could be the fact that we can incorporate multiple bank accounts from overseas and foreign currencies within the system as well, in case you have that wide range of liquid cash management or bank accounts within other countries. We can incorporate them within the system, as well as being able to easily apply, of course, the GST statements that you want to incorporate. But we'll get into that more in depth when we get to the tax management once you learn. So mainly stuck to the web experience today, seeing the different pages that we want to incorporate. There's also the Office 365 experience. If you're an Office 365 user, you'll be able to have this single sign-on functionality to all the system within your Office 365 suite. And of course, you can have the tablet experience. Now, you might be wondering why there's that little gap in the middle there. That's because in the next update of Financials for Office 365, there will be the phone experience. So hopefully one day, if you're in a demonstration on site with me, I'll be able to show you how that works on my small phone and how it's just easily able to enter information into the system, giving you those multiple paths to Financials for Office 365. Now, we've been able to quickly cover the aspects within that we want to illustrate to you today. Of course, we can go more in depth, but that's what this time is for, the Q&A section. So, does any of the participants of this webinar today have a specific question in regards to financial management that they'd like to throw out to us?
Yeah, there's a couple from Tim.
Great. Okay, so Tim's question is there any way? Is there a way to require a specific dimension to be used on a particular account? It's a very good question. So what we can do for that is that we can make the accounts that we can see here. Let's hop back into the system just to illustrate this for Tim. Is that these specific accounts can be given default dimensions to apply to them in the system. Hop into one just here. So this could be any one of our dimensions that we've talked about today, whether it be area codes or departments, cost centers, business groups, customer groups. It could be any one of these. And then you can apply any value in that regard. And then you can make it that the entry of that dimension against it as a default is mandatory. It could be that there is no requirement for the code, or that there is the option to have it there. So this will be drillable anytime you hop into the GL account. But of course, this is readily available to us through our posting groups, as you can see here. Purchasing posting group for the increases that we have there, as well as national for the range that we're hopping around in. Could be national, foreign, as well as the general production posting group that we see here. Could be miscellaneous. So for you, Tim, I'll also send maybe a couple of pieces of documents to illustrate how we can set it specific to each account that you have there. So you don't have to manually attach that dimension to each one of the, let's say, entries that you're applying to this account. Okay, Alvin, do we have any?
So the next question we have is on fixed assets. Are you, instead of using next service date, can you use it based on usage, say a car, the next 15,000 kilometers?
Okay. So this is in regards to the actual next service date. Let's hop back into fixed assets. It is important to note here that we are trying to be as upfront as possible, and that would be a manual entry of an actual number in here. We don't apply it on usage because, of course, that gets into the requirement for a link to that. What we have here is what we call the next service date. So we can't actually do it based on usage. In that regard, it would be, let's say, as we have it mentioned here, the next 15,000 kilometers. So it's more applying a specific service date. There isn't a linkage, it's just that mention of a date within the asset itself. If you'd like to apply that you have a contract for services to be applied to this item by a vendor, we'll get into depth about that when we talk about service management in the lunching rates. But that's a very good question to ask. All right, Alvin, do you have any other questions in regards to, let's say, fixed asset management?
The next one's on foreign exchange.
Great. You mentioned that the foreign exchange features will allow revaluation of unrealized gains and losses on the debitors and creditors ledgers. But will it also create entries on consolidation of profits and entries in different currencies? Yep, that's a very good question. So for that, we've got the actual consolidation. So what is important to note, for every user that you buy within Financials Office 365 has the functionality to, and capability to have as many entities entered into the system as possible. So right now I'm in Cronus Australia. We do have the functionality to hop into multiple entities, such as, let's say, Cronus America in the system. And then I could delve out and then actually apply a theoretical, let's say, company called consolidation. Within there, we can actually account for the intercompany postings and the transactions that occur between these two companies, apply the different currencies that they're incorporating, and yes, exactly that. Incorporate the gains and losses based off the exchange rates from the two different currencies that they incorporate. We'll talk about that more in depth in financial reporting, but that is a very good question. Okay, so we have another question here. How does date compression work in budgeting? If you apply an adjustment of 1.2 factor with a date change formula of 1 year and the date compression of 1 month, does this mean that last year's total plus 20% will be the total budget for the next year, divided by 12 equal monthly amounts? Or is this a 1.2 factor applied monthly to a monthly average of last year's actual? Alternatively, what would be the impact of choosing daily compression rate? It's a very good question in regards to budgeting. So let's hop back into our budgeting module, really delve into what we're talking about here. So currently what we're seeing here is a date filter applied to an entire financial year of the monthly budgeted entries applied to the system. So let's just compress this date filter here to be for a month. And let's view them by days. So right now we've compressed it so that this is applying on a monthly basis. You can have daily entries entered into the system for your budgets. So if you were to compress it by a day, that would then span it out. So when we go into the copy budget functionality, what this system does is that it allows you to compress it to either a month, if it's a month, to a year, and then a quarter or a period of your choosing, of course. But it allows you just to compress the data that's in there. Now, if you wanted to apply this and have the manual entry of budgeted entries on a day-by-day basis, you have that functionality. Adjusting the fact, it doesn't work on averages too, it works on the actuals within the system. To answer your question here, David, yes, when you apply a 1.2 adjustment factor with a date change formula, that'll push forward all these entries from, let's say, 2014 here to 2015. Then it will apply the adjustment afterwards. Now, if you were to compress it, it would take the actuals and it would then just bring it up as one entry. So we're taking those multiple entries, those multiple budgeted entries, and just creating it as one entry. So this could be for just an ease of use reading. If you like, we'll also send you some documentation. A good feature about financials for Office 365 is no matter what page you're in, all you have to do is select the question mark and help. And what this does, it brings up an actual help page specific to the page we're open. It allows me even to use a link to hop back in. Brings up information about every aspect I was viewing there too. No worries, Tim. I'm happy to answer any question everyone has. Okay, so this has been a quick look at the financial management that we have within the system. Of course, each piece of functionality here is what separates us as an accounting system. It's really hard to step apart from everyone. And the way that financials tries to do this is through its ease of use and ease of manual entry. So you don't have to throw in as much detail as you want. You get that powerful analytical functionality and reporting functionality just by quickly entering and navigating through the system. As you can see, this is one of the many modules that's within Financials for Office 365. So, of course, there's the functionality for BAS and GST, but we'll get more into depth about that within the tax lunch and learn. Easy feature to note here within the setup, or let's say the entry of information within anything that we've seen here, can be just done through what you see here in the general ledger setup. Here we can see that you can apply a local currency code for your organization so it can interact with all of those other currencies. We've got down here the dimensions that I've applied to the system. Now, of course, the global dimensions are entered into the system upon setup, but you can have as many of them interacting with your system as you'd like onwards, and then just change them around. And of course, one piece of information that we'll discuss during the financial reporting lunch and learn is the ability within the chart of accounts, as well as every single report that we'll delve into, whether it be a dynamic report or just a simple report such as your income statement, not only splice and dice with the dimensions, but also even add an additional currency so that you can have that specification applied to what you're analyzing. Now, it might be that you have stakeholders within another country, say the US or somewhere in Europe, that need that information straight away translated to their currency. We have a dynamic way of adding a currency to your financial reporting that will illustrate in that lunch and learn. So, this was just a quick overview of financial management, but we hope we've been able to illustrate the ease of use and the powerful functionality that we have here within Financials for Office 365. Is there any other questions about financial management that anyone would like to ask? Feel free to even turn off your mic and just hop in and ask. Okay, it looks like we've got all the questions that we're going to get today. Everyone's just saying thank you for the webinar. Much appreciated, everyone. So, I guess the question that everyone does have right now is, what is next week's webinar going to be about? We've already touched on inventory management, as well as now financial management. So the next aspect that I believe would be most important to throw out there would be project management. Hope you've all had a very good day. I look forward to seeing you guys next week for our lunch and learn in regards to the project management. Have a good day, everybody.